Walking along the road to hope, the road appears as we take each step. This imagery of the road appearing beneath us as we brave each next metaphorical step is brought to us by an ancient Chinese philosopher, storyteller, mystic, who used the tool of story to illustrate the concept called hope, rising to meet us, to comfort us, and carry us through hard moments. In another story about journeys taken and opportunities both taken and lost, Jesus tells us of a man stripped naked and beaten and left for dead along the side of a well-traveled road. He is passed up by people who shrink away from touching him, lest they be contaminated by his misfortune. It isn't until a Samaritan comes upon the beaten man that anyone actually stops and with compassion and care reaches out to help him. At the time of the telling, Samaritans and Jews hated each other, a deep-seated tribal hatred that nonetheless did not stop this good Samaritan from doing the right thing. In his parable, Jesus uses story to illustrate the concepts of compassion, kindness, loving thy neighbor. Poet David White writes, an ancient, much visited, but unverifiable human intuition says that we dwell not only in what seems like the immediate present, but equally in a past peopled by those who have made us, and a future for which our present seems to be but a slow preparation. I take this to mean the stories we are told as children, handed down generation to generation, and those we tell ourselves, they shape us. They shape our lives. For most of us, there comes a time when we have to re-story ourselves in order to restore and properly claim ourselves. For adult people, we can, in fact, take control of this remarkable gift of story and restoration and apply it liberally to our own understanding of our lives. And for me, this is such a comforting thought. We have the capacity to repair damage done by histories that haven't served us. We have the capacity to make ourselves anew through the practice of imagining new and different morals arising out of our lived experiences. Because we have our human origins in ancient oral tradition, even for modern people, stories and narrative are how we learn, how our memories are constructed, how our futures can be created as well. Through story, we pass along information, make meaning of random events, build culture, and relate to one another. You could say that stories are made up by the alphabet that is our DNA, and a good story reinforces this very humanness, building us up and helping us to navigate the complexities. A UU storyteller, David Novak, wrote in a recent blog post, telling stories is a practice in exploring possibilities. Each new story is a new scenario, a new series of choices, of causes and effects. Which means that through story, we can have lived 100 different lives, trying on 1,000 different choose-your-own adventures, and potentially learn new things with each fresh retelling. What a relief it is to imagine this flexibility of narrative, both personal but also on a world scale. We are not at the end of the story, not by a long shot, and the meaning we make from the happenings around us now may be very different in the light of the next retelling. Our oral tradition, with us since the beginning of humanity, relies too upon our memories, not just the tellers, but all of our memories collectively. Through engaging with stories together, we are engaging in a co-creative act. I recently took a class on how to work with adult learners in a church setting. I've taught a number of adult classes here at UUCE, everything from crafting a blessing book to crafting multicultural understandings of the world. And the more I teach adult learners, the more I come to realize that at our core, at every age, we learn and grow in much the same ways. As my teacher recently said, what's good for children is actually just plain good for everyone. I cannot tell you how many of you have come to me to say, the story is my favorite part of Sunday morning. It's really lovely to hear, but also it turns out you're just wired to respond that way. In some ways, that makes my job really, really easy. As long as I hit the high points of good beginning, middle, and satisfying end, your minds will be satisfied. But each Sunday, the story strives to serve a purpose deeper than that. Madeleine L'Engle, author of A Wrinkle in Time, said that stories make us more alive, more courageous, more human, more loving. In the end, isn't this what might be said of our community here, of our worship together, of church?